for my father. When the Kristallnacht came, he was warned by his non-Jewish colleagues not to stay at home.
So this headmaster, a wonderful man, phoned my father and said, look, Eugen, take your son because all Jewish boys and men over 16, I think, will be put into a concentration camp.
School was dismissed for all of us at lunchtime. We went home, and my mother made strict instructions for me and my brother not to go out of the house.
And I was at the time, I guess, 38, 39, 17, 16, I think I was, 16.
Against my mother's wishes, took my brother and I said, this we have to see for our future generation, how a German people can be stoop so low and do such cruel things. So we went to the Fasanstraße on foot.
The famous synagogue in the Fasanstraße in Berlin, near the Kurfürstendamm, and the synagogue was in flames when we passed.
And I believe that the man, the shamus who looked after the shul, was burned inside the shul.
We saw SS men smash the windows. We actually saw it. Glass everywhere. That's why they called it the Kristallnacht, the night of the crystals.
We saw the shops being looted. We saw people jeering and screaming and shouting, serve them right, the Jews.
They wrote on the windows, don't buy from a Jew, and the Jews are our unhappiness.
My parents decided that nothing could happen to me, so I was left in the flat alone with our maid.
My father and I picked our little bags and we left the house. My sister was left behind with a parlor maid, and my mother, which I didn't know at the time because she was still there when we both left, went somewhere else.
At night, at 11 o'clock, two very hefty boxer-type SR people came to find out where my parents were. And they searched the house, they searched the cupboards, they searched the wardrobes, under the beds. When they made sure that my parents weren't there, they said they will be back. And they were back again at 6 o'clock in the morning. And that went on for about 3 days and 3 nights.
So we slept every night somewhere else at relations or friends where one party was Jewish and the other one was non-Jewish. And we were told that if we sleep in a house where there is a mixed marriage, they won't touch us yet. And lo and behold, that's what happened, because we didn't want to endanger anyone.
And after that those 3 days, they came one afternoon. When I was sitting at our bay window and the Gestapo was sitting opposite me, and they forced me to telephone my aunt or relatives, just to find out if perhaps my parents would be there. So I rang up, and my aunt, who was the widow of a rabbi, answered the telephone, and I said, don't you know by any chance where my parents are? And she said, yes, they're having coffee here. So I said, oh, isn't that dreadful? Don't you really know where they are? I'm so worried, and hang up. And the Gestapo said to me, or the SR said to me, you cheeky brat, if you don't tell us where your parents are, we will take you along. Make sure that they'll stay home next time we are here.
So after a week, my father, sort of typically very honest citizen, couldn't cope with it anymore. He just couldn't. So he went to the police and he gave himself up. And he said, look, take me, I'm fed up. I can't take it anymore, running around like a fugitive.
So I told him to sit down. They looked and they said, no, you go home and lock your doors. That was a private razzia to force the academics, teachers and doctors to get out of Germany as fast as possible. And if they weren't, they would be put into a concentration camp, Sachsenhausen and wherever.
So my father went home. He had a stomach ulcer already for quite a few years, I think, but it was always controlled, and I don't know what drugs they had in those days. And then, because of all this excitement, it really did enormous harm to my father. Because for him, for a man who thought he was a German of Jewish religion, that this should happen to him, he sarcastically said, you know, as he was told once, der Dank des Vaterlandes ist euer, meaning what Jews did in the First World War and what Jews did for Germany, the thanks is due to you. And he repeated these sort of words which were now very hollow, no thanks from the fatherland. And he was very bitter and worried and fearful. And so 2 days, I think, after we went home, he had terrible pains in his stomach, and the stomach ulcer apparently burst.
He had always a weak stomach. He was taken, I put him on the stretcher. He was so light that I, as a girl of 18, could lift him. We put him on a stretcher. He went to the Berlin Jewish Hospital. He died there. That was 5 weeks after the Kristallnacht.
And we had to sell our flat, all the contents of our flat, and move into a little lodging somewhere with another family. Then my mother tried everything possible that we should get out, but she couldn't. So she thought, if I go out with a children's transport, and a colleague of my father, a Jewish teacher, made it possible that I would get onto this children's transport. And if my father wouldn't have died, I would have never got onto this children's transport. So he had to die, ironically, so that I could survive.